Because it's a really good Sunday, isn't it, to talk about storms, because we know all about them from what happened last week, the week before last. And we know how noisy and scary storms can be and how destructive they are. That's just one of the many, many, many trees that fell down during that big, big storm we had last Wednesday night. And the power cut, and all the power lines went, and it was a big, big storm, wasn't it? And we were in our homes, thankfully. Imagine if you were out in the sea. Imagine what it would have been like in the ocean that day as the waves came up from the Antarctic and the seas came up. Imagine if you were a little boat out in the sea and how scary it would be when the storm came along. Well, we have weather forecasts, don't we? And we knew that they were predicting a big storm. I don't know if you saw it the week before that they said the low's coming from here, then the low will come from here, and then the low will come from here. So basically, it was happening. And we knew a bit to prepare. We probably brought in some of our outdoor chairs and knew to batten down the hatches. But in Jesus' day, there was no evening news. Turn on lovely Edwin Marr. Remember Edwin back in the day? Tell us the news. No, none of that in Jesus' day. And Jesus and his disciples had just finished a big day out, talking to lots of people. And they got into their boat to cross the Sea of Galilee. Little did they know about the storm that was about to hit them. It was the end of the day. Jesus was in the boat with them. And think about the end of the day. They were probably all tired and hungry after a big day out with the crowds. And the last thing they needed was a storm to cope with. But isn't that always the way? I'm not sure about you, but I know with me, how many of our storms blow up after a busy day, especially when we're tired and hungry? That's the time, isn't it? Whoa. And I'm not talking about weather storms. I'm talking about those storms that happen in the kitchen when you're trying to get dinner cooked and you're all hungry and the kids are screaming. The storms that happen at home and the phone calls that come in that don't go well. You can't say, I'm really tired. You just say, boom, boom, boom. So there's a few storms that happen when we're tired and hungry, and that's what it would have been like for them. I remember over the years coming home after a big day at work, I had a very short fuse, and the tiniest little annoyances would just set off a storm in our household because I was tired and I was hungry. My mum used to call that time just before the evening meal the hour of the gherkin. Not sure why you'd say that. She had 3 children under 3. And she said that was the time of day when she felt like going up onto the roof of the house and eating gherkins. But she didn't manage to, and it was we all got through, we had dinner, and we were in a much better place after that. So it would have been the same for Jesus and his disciples. End of the day, tired, hungry. The last thing they needed was this furious squall, and it came up suddenly, and the waves drenched them. Freezing cold. Imagine if that happened today. We'd freeze, wouldn't we? We'd be frozen. And it was so terrifying for them. But Jesus actually was asleep on a cushion in the stern of the boat, peacefully sleeping, not particularly worried. And in fact, I guess he was probably really tired. That can often happen. If we're really tired, we'll sleep through anything. So he'd had a really big day. And he was fully human. So he felt tiredness like we do, as well as being fully God. So the disciples woke him up and they said, "Don't you care if we drown?" Of course Jesus cared. Of course he did. He got up, he rebuked the wind, and he said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." And then the wind did die down and it was completely calm. Do you remember the storm last week? How the wind was howling late Wednesday and into the night and on Thursday morning, and then all of a sudden, at 11 o'clock Thursday morning, it was like a switch, the off switch went. And suddenly everything was calm. And I sort of said to myself, listen to that. It's quiet. Yeah, I know. Yeah, yes. And it was really noisy until it suddenly just went off. It was like someone said, be calm, be still. Like someone's flicked off a switch, I reckon. Like the power went off, and it sure did. You're absolutely right. So, and that's exactly how it was out in there. That would have calmed into this quiet, be still, Jesus said, and the wind died down and it was completely calm. And then Jesus used the occasion to say to his disciples, they could finally hear what he was saying because the wind had died down, "Why are you so afraid?" Go back. I think you're right. "Do you still have no faith?" Said in that one, it says, "How is it that you have no faith?" Said to them in that quiet and in the stillness. Remember that these disciples had only been with Jesus a fairly short time, probably 1 or 2 years, maybe even less, or maybe, if you read Mark's Gospel, it was really at the end of a busy week. So they hadn't been with Jesus for longer. But over that time, they'd seen him do some amazing things. He'd healed lots of people. But they had a long way to go before they actually had real faith and trust in Jesus. And I guess we too have a long way to go, don't we, in our faith and in our trust in Jesus? Because many of us have followed Jesus for a lot longer than those disciples had. And I'm sure many of us have seen Jesus do amazing things in our lives. We've seen Jesus calm a few of our storms, I'll bet. But like the disciples, we know that we can trust in Jesus and we can grow in our faith in him. That's growing in our trust in Jesus, believing him. Think about all the times in your life when Jesus has helped you. Because all of us have faced so many challenges in our lives, haven't we? We've faced grief, we've faced illness, we've faced lots of troubles. It is just part of life. But I'm pretty sure all of us have seen Jesus help us and be with us at every stage, every loss, every illness, every challenge. I know personally how much he has helped me and held on to me through all of those times. In our readings today, what did we hear about Eden? Who was that young boy's name with the slingshot? David. David had the slingshot. And he had a big storm to face. He had Goliath, didn't he? He had a big storm to face. And what about Paul in the New Testament reading? We show some of the things that Paul says. He says in beatings, imprisonments, riots, hard work, sleepless nights, we know about those, and hunger. He knew that God was with him. And he went on in this reading to say, for every bad thing that happened, and this is a bit hard to read, every difficulty had a good thing that happened. Had a victory. Like we are genuine, yet we're regarded as imposters. We're known, yet we're regarded as unknown. We're dying, and yet we live on. We're beaten, but we're not killed. We're sorrowful. We know about sorrow, but always rejoicing. We're poor, but we make many rich. We have nothing, but we possess everything. So every bad thing that Paul went through, he knew the good thing, which was a big, big thing that God was giving him. So it's like every storm was calmed by God in his life. Paul knew about Jesus calming life's storms. But we, like Jesus, have a lot to learn, don't we? Quite rightly, the storm terrified them. And we, like those disciples, we get scared and we get anxious, don't we? We worry about things. It's just who we are. Nobody wants to get drenched and nobody wants to be out on the open sea when the storm strikes. So have a think about it. What is it that you are afraid of? What is it that you worry about? Did that wind the other night cause you anxiety as that wind blew? I know our neighbours actually were trying to sleep in bed, and at 1 a.m. their roof came off. So they had every reason to be terrified. 1 a.m. They got back to bed in their clothes in case it came off anymore. So I don't know about you, I actually was able to sleep through that and wake up every now and then and think, golly, that's noisy. But thankfully I didn't have my roof blown. Maybe our anxiety comes from other things. Do you worry about your family? Do you have health concerns? Financial problems? Arguments? Maybe you've got so used to worrying that about something that you keep worrying even when things are going really well. You kind of think, what can I worry about now? They can't possibly be going well. Well, sometimes they are. And we forget to listen to Jesus because he says, why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? The disciples and us have a lot to learn, that Jesus is able to help us handle the storms of life, and he handles them for us. We turn to him for help. What about what happened then, Eden, when you said to the big Goliath, David said, you'll know that it's not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's. God would fight their battles, and he fights them for us too. He says the battle belongs to the Lord. So a tiny stone knocked flat the most powerful of Israel's enemies. We have a lot of enormous challenges in life, but God actually says in the Bible, the battle belongs to me. Let me fight your battle. God really does fight our battles for us if we ask him to. The battle belongs to the Lord. He can and he does calm that raging sea. Gee, I've known God's forgiveness over these last 6 months as I faced a cancer diagnosis and received at the time such good and effective treatment. I was so thankful to God. And this week I actually received a clear result back from my checkup. So I was really so thankful to God. Because even though I knew how loving and good and caring God is, every review appointment comes up and you're always glad to be on the other side of it, that's for sure. And I sure was glad to be on the other side, and then 10 days later to ring and get a negative result. I was so thankful that Jesus calmed the storm in me. He fought my battle for me. And God is good like that for all of us. And like me, I'm sure you have seen God help in many difficulties in life. And I think we need to keep asking him for help. I have to keep waking him up and saying, help me. Do you care if we drown? We do have, life's not easy. And we do need to keep waking Jesus up because he does care. And we still need to call out to him every moment of every day through the storms and challenges of life. It'd be great if we didn't have to worry about anything, but we do. And it's a growing experience, and we all need to grow. And Jesus does care, and he looks after us every moment of every day. And he's answering prayer every time we pray. So remember to pray. Jesus is incredibly powerful. That day on the Sea of Galilee, he calmed the raging sea. We sang about how great thou art, the beauty of creation. Jesus is in control of all of that. And yet he loves us. He's closer than our very breath. And he loves us like a shepherd and looks after us because he wants the absolute best for each one of us. And he's trying to build our faith. So our next song that we're going to sing is talking about, with Christ in our vessel, which is our boat, we can smile at the storm. So this is a new one for Paul. I'm not sure if any of you know it, but we'll give it a try. And it's got actions in it, Eden. Do you think you can help me with the actions? Okay. Just turn that one off.